they were doing. And of course you have Caitlin, who's drawn eyes from all around the world that was like, why would I not? Why not?
The WNBA was bustling with activity when Sophie Cunningham showed up for her first interview. This wasn't just another news conference where a player says they're excited to join a new city. It was a proclamation of intent. In addition to signing with Indiana to begin anew, Sophie Cunningham made it abundantly clear the Fever lacked the necessary pieces to compete, and she was here to change that. The timing made it all the more significant. Months earlier, Sheryl Swoopes had mocked the idea that anyone would want to play alongside Caitlin Clark, fueling rumors that Indiana was a dead end for top talent. Did I think the squad will win a championship? Cunningham said, looking down at the camera, smiling in her jersey. Sophie's arrival flipped that narrative. She didn't hesitate to state her purpose. She wasn't there to ride celebrity coattails, chase headlines, or soak up attention. She came to Indiana to win. Nothing more, nothing less. And she had no idea that this group would one day hang championship banners from the rafters. Her message was a direct challenge to the doubters, those who said the Fever were too young, too unproven, and overly reliant on Caitlin Clark's rising star. When Sophie spoke about trophies and proving critics wrong, it felt like a rallying cry. You could almost hear the collective eye roll from those who had already written Indiana off. And then she asked, "Is she serious?" What made her statement even more powerful was how it countered Swoopes' earlier criticism that no one wanted to play with Clark, and that the entire Fever environment was toxic or undesirable. Fans had speculated for months that Clark wouldn't be able to attract top-tier players. Meanwhile, Indiana quietly built an off-season that was anything but quiet. The front office brought in Natasha Howard, a seasoned champion with a strong post presence and defensive edge, and Dana Bonner, one of the league's most respected scorers, known for her versatility and big-game experience. When Sophie Cunningham chose Indiana, it was clear the Fever were building something much bigger than a rebuild. Sophie didn't just sign. She smiled as she explained how her game would complement Caitlin Clark's. Her excitement for the Fever's fast-paced style of play outweighed any hesitation. Then came Sydney Colson. Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell spoke about a run-and-gun, share-the-ball strategy that Boston had envisioned for years, one that capitalized on quick breaks, open looks, and fluid ball movement. Sophie's confidence on camera shattered the old perception that Indiana was a place to avoid. The idea that Caitlin Clark somehow stifled talent suddenly seemed ridiculous. Instead, players appeared eager to join, as if responding directly to the critics, still clinging to Swoopes' outdated remarks. It felt like an earthquake. Indiana had arrived. Supporters cheered and grabbed Cunningham jerseys as soon as they hit the shelves. While some might call it hype, it felt more like the natural reaction of a fan base thrilled to see so many high-profile names, choosing Indiana with real enthusiasm. What made Sophie Cunningham's excitement stand out from the usual off-season fanfare was her credibility, built not on potential, but on a performance history rooted in grit. She wasn't just a rising talent. She had spent years in Phoenix studying the mental side of competition and experiencing the daily grind of real champions. Sophie wasn't teasing potential. She was stating, with clarity, that the Fever had the pieces to move from an afterthought to a legitimate contender. She's been in the front row with some of the greatest WNBA players of all time and knows firsthand how thin the line is between playoff glory and heartbreak. More importantly, she's been to the playoffs and even the finals, which gives her confidence. And now, she's bringing that mentality to a team featuring a generational star in Caitlin Clark, a dominant young force in Aaliyah Boston, and an elite scorer in Kelsey Mitchell. Statistics alone can't capture Sophie's impact. Yes, her shooting stretches the floor, and her three-point range is deadly. But perhaps her biggest value lies in her toughness, her willingness to defend teammates, especially Caitlin Clark. Last season, Clark took several cheap shots, and few teammates stepped in. That dynamic is bound to change with Sophie on the floor. She doesn't back down, knows how to make her presence felt without crossing the line, and has already earned her reputation across the league. Now, if Clark gets roughed up, opponents will have to answer to Cunningham that it's also important to note that Sophie joined Indiana at the perfect time, when the team was still young enough to shape a unified identity, but experienced enough to chase real success. Aaliyah Boston evolved into a dominant inside force last season, Add Sophie's fierce competitiveness to seasoned veterans like Natasha Howard and Dana Bonner, both of whom understand what it takes to win at the highest level. And you've got a team that's not just hoping for success, but demanding it. Kelsey Mitchell has shown flashes of being unstoppable when she wants to be, and Caitlin Clark continues to draw attention wherever she goes. In what may have been a subtle jab at the instability surrounding the Mercury, from injuries to behind-the-scenes drama, Cunningham hinted that Phoenix was no longer the right fit. She spoke openly about feeling free at last and finding a team that matched her style and mindset. While she learned from great people in Phoenix, even the best athletes can only absorb so much in a culture that's no longer thriving. In Indiana, she's found a team that isn't constrained by old stereotypes. A blank slate, ready to write a new story, Sophie is the rare mix of mentor and catalyst. Clark thrives when surrounded by shooters who can space the floor, and Sophie delivers on both fronts, moving relentlessly, hitting open threes, and forcing defenders to stretch the floor or get burned. If defenders collapse on Boston in the post, Sophie's ready for a spot-up triple or a timely cut to the rim. And guess who's poised to exploit that weak perimeter defense? Boston. While Kelsey Mitchell and Dana Bonner slash in from the wings with a balanced attack that doesn't rely on one player, Natasha Howard holds it down in the paint. More importantly, this team already seems aligned in purpose. Sophie made it clear she isn't satisfied with her current WNBA standing. She wants hardware and to see her name on a championship banner. Bonner is hungry for another title. Still riding the momentum of her historic college career, Clark is ready to channel that drive into pro success. And in a positive locker room environment, Aaliyah Boston is eager to prove she's far more than a promising young talent. She's a future cornerstone. That's why Sophie's championship prediction didn't come off as hollow hype. It felt real, like it came from someone who's been in the trenches, battled through the playoffs, and recognized what Indiana is building. Despite all the attention Caitlin Clark brings and the pressure that follows, Sophie embraces it rather than shies away. Sheryl Swoopes' claim that no one wanted to play with Clark hasn't just aged poorly, it's become the league's biggest punchline as Sophie's media savvy only strengthens her message. From being in the spotlight to working as a TV analyst, she knows how to speak, but more importantly, she knows how to back her words with action. The Fever's recent acquisitions show that both stars and key role players aren't avoiding Indiana, they're racing toward it. Sophie Cunningham is living proof that the narrative was wrong from the beginning. And now, alongside a mix of established veterans and rising stars, her presence sends a clear message to the league. The Indiana Fever aren't just building, they're ready to compete.